Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unraveling a pretty fascinating psychological mystery. Why is it that the more we try to explain ourselves, the less powerful we actually become? We're going to examine the hidden cost of our words and look at why our desperate attempts to be understood often leave us feeling entirely unseen. So let's explore the dual trap of over-explaining. You know the feeling, right? Have you ever walked away from a conversation with that sinking feeling that you just said way too much? And it's not because you were impolite, it's because you caught yourself desperately trying to explain your choices to someone who clearly had absolutely no intention of understanding you. You shared context, you softened your tone, and yet you walked away feeling minimized. Look, if you've been there, you are absolutely not alone.
Part 1. The Roots of Justification. Let's dive right into why we do this.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Stephanie Sarkis points out that over-explaining isn't just some quirky communication habit. It actually stems from deep-rooted origins. For a lot of people raised in emotionally unpredictable environments, anticipating someone's reaction and presenting a sort of bulletproof rationale, well, that was an early survival strategy. It was literally a childhood shield, used to avoid emotional fallout, punishment, or rejection. We essentially learned a false rule. If we are just clear enough, we're going to be safe. And that brings us to this massive core misconception. We falsely believe that if we just get our explanation right, we'll finally earn respect. We expend these massive amounts of unnecessary mental energy trying to clarify our right to just take up space, hoping all that extra context is going to win approval. But in reality, this usually just makes us feel smaller, and it reinforces the exact anxiety we were trying to escape in the first place.
Part 2. The Illusion of Clarity. Let's look at the cognitive science behind our words.
Because here's the thing, over-explaining doesn't just drain us emotionally, it actually fails on a purely technical level. There's a fascinating 2002 study by Keyser and Henley that identified a cognitive bias known as the overestimation of effectiveness. Basically, as speakers, we expect people to understand our intended meaning way more often than they actually do. When we try to be extra clear, our own brains are actively deceiving us. And you can see how this plays out. The reality of this bias is systematic miscommunication. When our communication is ambiguous, we actually underestimate our own ambiguity. And when we add what we think are helpful little hints, all those extra over-explained details, we drastically overestimate how transparent they are to the other person. So by adding more and more words to try and be clear, we're systematically creating the exact miscommunication we are trying so desperately to avoid. It's wild. Part 3. When boundaries become negotiations. This is why we lose our firm ground. Consider what a firm, complete boundary looks like. I won't be attending the family event this weekend. It's respectful, it's solid, and it's crystal clear. But because silence feels so stark and uncomfortable to us, we often drift right back into over-explaining. We say, well, I've had a really long week and I need to rest. Maybe I can stop by for a little while. By adding those extra justifications, we accidentally downgrade our boundary into an open negotiation. We leave the door wide open for guilt tripping. Our extra words don't signal clarity, they just signal uncertainty. Which leads us to a vital rule for reclaiming your power. Not everyone has earned access to your internal world. Your reasons for needing rest, or for just saying no, are completely valid. But people who are just listening to your explanation so they can find leverage or argue with you, they do not deserve your detailed justifications. You absolutely do not need to hand over the keys to your internal vault just to be respected. Part 4. The power of restraint. Let's talk about a practical framework for change. If you want to step out of this trap, Dr. Sarkis provides some incredibly concrete scripts rooted in restraint. Things like, I'm not available, but thank you. That doesn't work for me. Or simply, I've made my decision. Notice how direct these are. They prioritize emotional honesty without over-disclosure. Clear language can be entirely polite without leaving a single inch of space for unwarranted negotiation. But changing this behavior, it's a process of unlearning. First, you've got to notice that urge to backtrack the second it rises in your chest. Second, choose stillness. Just tolerate that agonizing initial awkwardness of silence. Third, reframe your mindset. Being understood is a gift, not a requirement. And finally, realize your worth was never, ever conditional on being agreeable. Every single time you hold a boundary without attaching a footnote to it, you stop rehearsing your defenses, and you start building profound self-trust. So we'll end with this beautifully simple yet incredibly difficult truth to master. No is a complete sentence. Think about it. Where in your life do you need to stop trying to talk someone into respecting you?